What is up, everybody? How are y'all doing? Coming to you live from, of course, where else would I be coming to you live from other than my parents' house? We got episode question mark of the Changavi Aftershow because, quite frankly, I've lost the amount of track. I've lost the track. I decided to podcast on a day I can't speak apparently, but I've lost track of the amount of Changavi After Show episodes I've done. I've also lost track of the amount of Changavi After Show episodes that I've done and not released to the public unless it's been on TikTok through clips and Instagram and through all of that various stuff. So it's been a while. That is the point. In short, it has been a while since I've come on here. And I'm so excited. I'm so pumped to be back. I'm recording this on Christmas night, when y'all are with your families, all you celebrating Christmasians or with your families, just being you and having fun and living a happy holiday. And meanwhile, in my Brown household, it's just any normal Sunday for us. We're ready to get back to work. But listen, Changavi After Show, I could come to you with the same old shit that I usually do, right? Let's go through a bunch of random topics and listen to a kid's opinion that I frankly don't give a fuck about. So I understand that. And I understand that there is a lot of things that we have missed out on as viewers, right? You guys, yeah, I feel like a lot of people who view this podcast know me personally because I'm not that big yet where I'm like, Charlie D'Amelio level status and I have fans from all over the world just commenting on my stuff. I'm no Aubrey Drake Graham. But the thing is, I am Anuj Changavi, and I do have some fans. And some people have been like, "Where's your podcast? It's not here. I don't know what's going on with your life. I use the podcast to keep up with where you're at." So I figured for today's or this week's concept, I would do like a little 2022 wrapped because it's been a while. What, the last time I recorded one of these and published it was like 2 months ago or something like that. So it has been a minute, and I think you guys deserve to know what the frick has been going on and what I've been thinking about in regards to all these different things. So let's get right into it. We got the 2022 wrap. So basically the concept is simple, right? You have things, you have Spotify, you have Apple Music. All these various companies and corporations are telling you, "Oh my God, your favorite song was Tootsie Slide by Drake," or whatever it is, and your favorite artist is so and so. And here's the highlight reel of your year when it comes to your music listening experience. For those of you that aren't familiar with Spotify or Apple Music, that's kind of the concept. So I figured I'd do something similar with my life that, frankly, about two of you maybe give a shit about. And the two of you that are listening to this are probably my mom and dad, who are frankly regretting the fact that they allowed their son to podcast in his childhood bedroom. But anyway, that is nonetheless besides the fact. We're going to do the Changavi Show 2022 wrapped. We're going to go through my life for the last 12 months. What the fuck has been going on? Why haven't I been recording more episodes? Where is all the pizza stories? What is happening? What is happening? So I think to start with 2022 and wrapping up this year, you got to start from the beginning, right? Let's go back to around a year from now, January 2022. How did this year really begin? And for those of you that are loyal viewers of this podcast, this year probably began with me shoving clips down your throat every single day on Instagram and TikTok of the various podcast episodes that I was recording probably about 3 times a week at that point. I was recording a lot of episodes. Beginning of this year, I was on elite content mode. I felt like I was a freaking film producer, bro. The amount of stuff I was putting out. I was going crazy. I was going so crazy that Shake from Love is Blind came at me in my DMs. Oh shit. I just realized I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I was going crazy. My content was going nuts. I was posting a lot. It was kind of nuts. It was kind of crazy. There was a lot to be posted. And there was a lot to be talked about, man. Hey, early 2022, the world almost ended. Y'all forget that Russia invaded Ukraine about a year ago. There was some shit that went down early last year. Okay, so I had the right to talk about all of these things and put warnings out there. And also, I want to give myself a little pat on the back when it comes to this 2022 wrapped. Things I got right in 2022. Number one, listen, there were probably a lot of great news outlets out there that talked about Brittany Griner. I think I was number one. I was number one. I talked about Brittany Griner probably like January 10th of last year, probably before like everybody was even talking about free BG, probably before LeBron James tweeted, before anybody even knew the name Brittany Griner really, like on a mainstream basis. I was talking about her. I'm just going to give myself credit. I'm just going to give myself credit. I was ahead of America on that one. So, like, if you were listening to the Changavi show at that time and you heard Brittany Griner, that's all because of me. It's because of me. I was ahead of the curve, baby. There were a few other news outlets that were kind of there with me, but not very many. I'm gonna tell you that much right now. There wasn't. I was ahead of the curve on that one, so I'm gonna give myself credit on that. But anyway, that was one take. I think I was pretty ahead on. But this 2022, like where were we at the beginning of this year? Besides me putting content down your throat and asking you questions and demanding that you watch my podcast, the one thing I want to talk about from early this year that I loved and I think deserves a special shout out is my Friday morning shift. Okay. So for those of you who have no idea, I used to work at a pizza place, a local pizza place, which shall go unnamed because I don't want you to stalk me for my internet people. But for the people that know me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, I used to work like 5 or 6 shifts a week at this pizza joint. And one day, my manager comes up to me and she's like, Anuj, we're going to need you to work in the morning. And I was like, oh, Lord. I don't wake up very early. I'm not a big like early riser type of guy. I'm not like a early bird gets the worm trying to get my money, my bread. I work stock market hours type dude. I'm a very like sleep in till about 10 and then get my work done from there. So this was quite the shock for Mr. Changavi here. So I was like, I reluctantly agreed because I'm a nice guy. And I ended up taking up this Friday morning shift and trading my Friday night shift, which I was kind of looking forward to because Friday nights are pretty chaotic. So, I love the chaos in the kitchen, but like I could give up one night of chaos for, a morning. And so I started working these Friday morning shifts and I'd work them with this one of my favorite people and one of my favorite people I worked with. You know who you are, Jack Bucket, and another individual. Usually it would rotate, and then there would be a few managers as well. And these shifts kind of started out as like really annoying at first. It was like Friday morning. I freaking hated waking up. I was late 90% of the time, and it was tough. I didn't like it. But as time moved on, these Friday morning shifts became like almost like super they were just really therapeutic for me. Like I would go in on Friday morning. There wouldn't be like this customer rush that I immediately had to worry about. I could go in and do all this prep with with a friend of mine who became my buddy, Jack. And we would just talk about like the most random shit, like TV shows and disc golf and like whatever. And we would just like cheese and sauce, like close to 200 pizzas every morning. And it was just, every Friday morning. And it was just peaceful. It was like this moment of peace that I never really had before when it came to work. Usually when I'd work, like it was very go, go, go. The kitchen's on fire. We need to do this. We need to do that. But Friday mornings became this like thing I'd look forward to almost because they were these 6 hours of just kind of like low keyness and just like chillness where like you could be yourself and it was therapeutic. And like it was a couple hours of prep followed by like the mornings of chaos. And because sometimes they would get kind of crazy and you'd have to cook a bunch and all that. But those early mornings are like, I crave those, dude. The smells in the kitchen, I still remember. I still like yearn for that smell of sausage, like at like 10 o'clock in the morning. It was great. And there's a lot of people who are probably listening to this right now, like, you are fucking insane. Waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning to do prep is not fun. But I don't know. There's something therapeutic about that, about those little moments. And it was probably one of the highlights of that first quarter of my year because I think the first quarter of last year was super chaotic. There was a lot going on for me personally. And as I'll talk about later, there's like a bunch. So having those like little moments on Friday mornings where I could walk in and just do prep were like some of the high points of my week. They were so much fun. So for those of you that were involved in my Friday morning shifts, I love you all because you made my first quarter of my year, and I wanted to include you in my version of Spotify Rap because the little things matter too, right? And not only did I meet Klay Thompson in the first quarter of my year, but I also had these like incredible little moments. Having, I think thinking and also having experiences that I will probably remember for the rest of my life. And I really appreciated those Friday morning shifts, even though at first I was hesitant. So moral of the story, guys, do things you're uncomfortable with because they end up working out usually. But also, I at this point, I think last year, this year, I don't know what to call it, but quarter one of this year, I think like honestly, I was feeling really behind. Like I thank God I was off LinkedIn because I would have probably felt even more behind. But like I just always felt like every single time I'd like go and catch up with friends or like friends would text me, they'd be like doing all this cool shit. I had a lot of friends at this point last year like study abroad. They were, going to whether it be Sweden or Finland or England or I had a friend that went to Peru, I like South America, just various different continents and places, and it felt like they were doing all this cool college shit, like oh my god, like I'm gonna go and study like all these tribes and like go hang out and party in like all these different international cities and like live my like best 20 something life. And I would look at their Instagram stories every morning and I would look at myself and I would look at my like makeshift podcast studio in freaking the Bay Area living with my parents. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And it was also at this point in my life where a lot of people in my life were like, what are you doing? Because I was a sophomore. I was technically a sophomore in community college. I was technically a junior in terms of like actual college. And I just felt like at a real stagnant point. And I felt at this point where like I had to prove people wrong. That like I had to be like, listen, peeps, like I'm gonna outwork you and I'm gonna prove you wrong. And it's me against the world. And like I tend to get into that mindset a lot when it comes to like everything I love because I always feel like, yo, I'm better than what people think I am. And like I always have this really big chip on my shoulder, which maybe I shouldn't, but maybe at some points it's good, some points it's not. It's this weird thing I've struggled with for a long time. I think it's maybe younger sibling syndrome as well. But I just at this point last year or this point at the beginning stages of this year, I was feeling that a lot. And I was feeling this whole thing of like, I'm so behind. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I'm just going after this crazy idea. And yes, like, am I loving every step of it? Yeah, absolutely. Like, am I loving talking to the camera? Like, fuck yeah. Am I loving like podcasting even though no one listens? Hell yeah. Like, this is what I want to do. And so I had this feeling of like relief and euphoria in terms of like what I was doing. Like, I loved it. But at the same time, I was feeling like this immense like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. Like people are getting mad at me in my life. Like there's a lot of people, parents included and family that are like, I don't know. Yeah, you need to be looking for a job or like you need to be looking at school. Because at that point in 2022, I was debating schools, and I'll get into that in just a second. Actually, right now, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing in regards to school because I just this was what I was finishing my second year, as I was saying, community college, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with school because at this point my hatred for school was at a peak, and it still is. It's still at that peak. Don't get me wrong. I firmly do not believe in the institution of higher education, and I don't think I ever will. But I was so confused as to like when the hell or where the hell I was going to college because there's such a variety of places I could have gone to school at that. Or well, actually, there wasn't a variety of places I could have gone to school. There was two places. It was between a UC school and a CSU school, and at that point, and I I was also questioning, like, I also had this, like, big time question in my head as to, like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing in college? It feels every step, every class I take just feels like an immense waste of time. That's what it felt like. College never to me has felt like, and I'm sorry to go on a college rant. I know you guys hate this, but like college to me has always felt like it's been this everlasting like void, and it's been this like bus stop almost for 4 years until the bus comes to pick me up for the next stage of my life. And at this point last year, or at this point this year, like I was feeling that. I was like, what am I doing? Like what is the purpose here? Like I'm not experiencing that social element of college that like um a lot of people who go to 4 year universities were experiencing. I really like academically like wasn't interested in what I was studying, and I'm still, I mean, like, am I interested? Maybe a little bit, maybe remotely, but like not that much. And like it felt like a drag. I mean, the fact is at that point I was taking a lot more general ed classes, which also made my life way more hellish because I just didn't appreciate any of it. I was taking classes like geology and freaking like intro to fiction and just classes that like frankly I don't, as much as like information and like as much as like you should look on the positive side, I wasn't taking much from those. They're classes I probably will never use again in my entire life. And I was just feeling like why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? And so having this intellectual debate in my mind when it came to like what the purpose of higher education was and why I'm even in school, I was also faced with the decision of where I was going to school. So I was like fundamentally questioning the idea of school, but at the same time, I had to pick a school because the reality is at that point in time, and still within the world that we live in, you kind of need a college degree if you want to function at a decent level. Unfortunately, we're not at the level where we don't have the infrastructure built into our society that you can survive without a college degree. It's unfortunate. It's a fucking byproduct of our society. But I was debating between two schools, the University of California at Davis, and in the other corner, San Jose State University. And I was debating between these two schools. I'd gotten into both these schools. I got rejected from like the other three I'd applied to. And at this point, it was like most people in my life were like, you're going to Davis. That was pretty much the thing. It was like, okay, you got into a UC school. It's a highly ranked institution. It's going to give you really good opportunities theoretically, I guess, on paper, it's going to give you more opportunities. It's going to give you that opportunity to go to college and live your experience and live that college experience and live that life. And then there was San Jose State, which was like the commuter school around near where I live. It's 15 minutes from my house. Like it's a quote unquote lesser school, less opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. And so as a result, like I was I was plagued with the choice. I had these two schools, and there was one that like people were telling me was much inferior, San Jose State, to the other one, which was UC Davis. And I was racking my head with this decision pretty much the entire first quarter of this past year. I would go back and forth on it all the time. There was a part of me that was like, I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to Davis. Like I'm gonna start over. I'm gonna like live this new life. Like I was watching a bunch of these like Davis day in the life vlog videos from these random white girl freshmen who were like trying to like showcase their life to like get an idea as to like what UC Davis was like and try to get excited. But like I don't know, this was going to be the third college that I'd gone to in the last, what now? It's been 4 years. Third college I'd been to in the last 4 years. I, I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't excited. The same, like, I remember that excitement that I had when I would get those acceptance letters the first time around when I was applying back when I was a senior in high school. And it was just exciting to see like all of these different places and all the different opportunities. And 2 years later, I was in the exact same position and I felt nothing. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, is there student jobs here? Like, is there a significantly better opportunity that I'm going to actually fucking enjoy what I'm studying? Like, the contrast between the decision that I made this year and the decision I made 3 years ago was night and day. It was crazy. It was crazy to think about. It was like enthusiasm and then like melancholic, like almost sadness of like, what am I doing with my life? Um, And it was just so strange. It's so strange to look at that decision. And to top it all, I think I kind of briefly touched on this. A lot of my family was like, go to UC Davis. Like the academic opportunities are better. It's highly ranked. It's highly ranked. That's what they were emphasizing. It's highly ranked. It's good program, good school. UC. It's a UC Davis, which is like a really good school here in California. And I I didn't feel that way, despite everything that everyone was telling me, that people in my ear who I consider close were telling me, like, go to Davis, like, it's going to be a really cool opportunity for you. I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, I was like, this does not make sense. I mean, the way I'd set up my life at that point, I was so content with. I really, really liked the way that I set everything up. Like, I could podcast whenever I wanted. I had a part-time job, which I really liked going to. I loved my coworkers. I loved my managers. It was great. It was fantastic. I was having such a good time. I felt like I was finally hitting my stride when it came to all of these things. But at the same time, there was this whole thing at the back of my head, which was like, maybe you need the change. Maybe you need to mix it up a little bit. Maybe it's time for you to go to this other school. And then I got this gut feeling like March. It had to be like March or April. And I didn't tell anybody about it, but I had a gut feeling. I was like, it's San Jose State. It's San Jose State. You have to go to San Jose State. I know everybody in your life is telling you not to do it, but you have to do it. And I I was scared by those thoughts at first, and a lot of people had a lot of strong opinions. When I even brought it up, there were people who were not happy in my life. They were like, "You have to go to Davis. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Like, are you stupid? Are you dumb?" And people wouldn't like hear me out. Like, I tried to talk to a certain extent, but it didn't. I felt like I was falling on deaf ears. But I mean, it's okay. And it eventually, I mean, this gut feeling was just like, you have to do it. And so I basically decided in my head around mid-April that I was going to go to San Jose State. And that was the decision. And the weirdest part is, like, I've always believed in my life that when you commit to something, when you decide in your mind that this is the right thing for you and that you're going to go for it, um, things kind of start to fall in place in other areas. And I really, really, really think that's what happened with this whole thing, because I've I committed to San Jose State in my head. I not like put down the physical thing, and right around that time, I got an interview. Right around that time, I got an interview from I guess I'll say from the San Francisco Giants. I got an interview, and I was shocked by that interview. First of all, when I saw the email, I thought it was a scam. I thought I'd gotten scammed. I was like, "Oh, this is bullshit for sure." And then, like, I had to reread the email like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, "There ain't no way. This is crazy." And so, I mean, look, it was far from a guarantee at that point. um, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the interview, obviously, because, like, why not? It's the San Francisco Giants. This is like the team that I grew up watching. Like, you look at the posters behind me, like, this is I love Bay Area sports. It's who I am. And so I end up taking this interview, and it goes really well. And I thought I did really well. And the hiring manager was like, "We'll be in touch." I was like, "Okay, cool. Well, we'll see what happens." Obviously, things kind of just, as they may, fall into place, and I get offered the job. I get offered this internship. I get offered this internship to work for the San Francisco Giants. And at the same time, this college decision is looming, and I'd mentally committed in my head to San Jose State. And as soon as I got that internship offer to to go to the Giants, I was like, "Yep, San Jose State it is." This gave me all the reasons in the world to do it, because at that point, I mean, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, there is nothing that is there's everything is keeping me here at this point. Like, there's nothing that is tying me to Sacramento. There's nothing that's tying me to Davis. It didn't make any sense. And I told my parents, I was like, listen, I got this internship. I'm so excited about it. Like I was so pumped. And I had the podcast, and I had like this cool group of friends that I had through work, and it was just great. Everything was going well. And then, got the internship offer, everything's great. And then I realized, like, holy shit. At first I thought, you know what? Like, I'm going to keep the Giants internship, and I'm also going to keep my job at Sis Rose. Like, I'm going to figure out a way to keep both. But I realized very quickly that that was going to be pretty much impossible, just because of the fact that I live about 45 minutes to an hour away from the city. So just commute time wise and the way things were working with my schedule over there, it just didn't make sense. And so I had to quit the pizza place at the end of my first quarter of this year, which was rough. It was rough. As like, I'm the type of person, I've kind of realized this. I really value the relationships I make and the people that I am with. And if I really like the people at a certain place, I will I won't leave. Like, it's very hard to get me to leave. And that's kind of what I realized with this whole like leaving the pizza place l- kind of around April, May of last or this year was I I really just like I get attached to people, and I get attached to my coworkers and the structure and all of these things, and it made it so hard to leave. I remember the night I quit, or sorry, not the night I quit, my last shift, like that night I walked out, and I remember just like sitting in front of the pizza place and just looking at it. I'd worked there for a year and a half at that point, and I loved every sec. I can't say I loved every second, but I I loved close to every second of it. And I remember just looking at it and being like, "Oh my god!" Like, I'm so sad that I'm leaving. Like, I felt so upset that it was ending, that it had ended. That it felt like a chapter had ended in my life. And look, with the end of the internship, like, I didn't know what the future had to hold. I could have very well been back there. Um, but I was very scared. Like, I was genuinely like, wow, this is, I'm leaving it. I feel like it was the end of a chapter. It felt very like naturally like a bookend. So at that point it was like shit. Like, I guess I'm just gonna, I'm gonna quit on the pizza place. And it was really upsetting. It was really sad. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm I know for a lot of people it was like, why are you sad? Like, you literally left for a better opportunity. But um I don't know. It felt like I grew, and I'll say this, like, it's, you're in retrospective, like, why don't we talk about it? I felt like I really grew up, like, working at the pizza place. I I learned how to work hard. I learned, like, really what work ethic means, and I learned to never ever ever like just throw money aside. Like, money's hard to come by in America. It's hard to come by in general, and you got to work for it. No one's gonna just give you a full time job whenever, unless you're rich or you're a nepotism baby. Like, you don't just get things handed to you on a silver platter. And I'm so happy that I got taught that lesson very early in life, um, relatively speaking. So that year and a half working at Cicero's, like, not only gave me some amazing relationships with people that, like, I consider to be awesome and people who I want to keep in touch with for a very long time, but also it gave me just perspective on the world, and just like just everything. Like, it's hard to almost quantify into words, like, how much that is. And I've talked about the pizza experience and just everything that it's given me, and just the amount of, like, just gratitude and things that I have for everyone that works there. Who knows? I could very well be back. We don't know what the future holds, but for the time being, it was a very sombering moment, and I was just honestly pretty upset to leave. But that leads us into the second part of this entire adventure. The second part, the second quarter of 2022 of Changavi Show / Anuj's personal life wrapped. So I get the job at the Giants, right? And everything, the first month, and in this first month with the Giants, I feel like I have to say this in terms of just like giving context before like we actually get into the like the actual what I'm actually going to say here. In context, when I got the internship with the Giants, I thought, okay, yes, is it working in sports? Hell yeah. Have I always wanted to try working in sports? Yes. But also at the same time, I want to make this podcast thing work. Like the podcast is my number one goal. And I even like said it in my first interview with the Giants, like, and my boss kind of clued me into that. Um, Later on, he told me that he thought it was kind of interesting that I said this, but he said, but I remember I said, like, I told them, I was like, my main goal, honestly, in 5 years is to make this podcast independent. Like, I want to live off of my podcast and do do my podcast independently and make some sort of money out of this so that I can live off my own income. And I made that very clear. I made that evidently clear. It was never like, I want to work at sports for the rest of my life. That was not the goal initially coming into this internship. That was, and I made that clear. I still got the internship. God knows how. Thank you. Thank you. My bosses are listening to this. Thank you very much. Let me get into it. So that was the mentality I came in with. I was like, I'm going to learn every single freaking thing that the Giants do and try to apply it to my podcast. That was the goal, and do it well. And then I realized about 4 weeks in, holy shit, this is my dream job. Like it at first, the first thing like was I'm going to apply to everything I learned. And then I get there and I'm like, wait, I want to do this. Like I realized very, very quickly that like, wait, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, is this like a possible career that you can like sign up for like full time? Like this is a thing. Like this is a thing. Like this isn't just some novelty thing. Like when I realized that after like 3.5 to 4 weeks, I was like, oh shit, things are changing. Things are changing. The podcast is no longer number one priority and takes over everything. The podcast is no longer God. It's not God anymore. We got an internship that we have to work hard at because we got to rise up the ladder. That was what I was thinking about a month in. I was like, yep, I know what I want to do. This is great. This is fantastic. What do I do to stay around here? So that was what became the number one goal at the time in the summer, I guess, May through June. And so I fell in love with this internship and I loved every second. And I really I honestly can tell you, like, I just had so much joy, like working for the Giants, like these past few months. Like it's been great. I've loved it. But as a result, when you do that, when you do those things kind of start to go out of whack in terms of the fact that, like, when you focus all your attention on one particular thing, other things in your life start to go out of balance. And that's kind of what I noticed. I was really focusing a lot of attention on my job. And so as a result, there was less attention given to the podcast, less attention given to school, which frankly, I didn't give a shit about. Like, honestly, like, school can go fuck itself. But like, I really was just giving very little attention to like other things in my life. And so everything just kind of went out of whack. And it was just like, what is happening? Like, and I had this whole, like, I was having this whole internal debate of like, wait, why do I like this job? This is not good that I like this. I should only be liking the podcast and only the podcast. Why am I liking this job? This is not fair. This is not fair. That was literally, that was literally like what I was thinking in my head. I was like, this is not good. This is not good. I'm not, it's not good that I'm liking something else. This is not great. This is bad. That's that was pretty much how I was feeling at that point. And the thing was, like, I should have had every reason to like not like the job as much because I practically lived on my brother's couch the entire summer. I lived on Caltrain. I lived on Caltrain and my brother's couch the entire summer. I was just commuting back and forth. Sometimes those trains would take like an hour and a half to 2 hours just to get back. Um, like it was brutal. I would live on that couch and sleep on that couch, and like my back started to hurt a little bit towards the end there, but it was all good. I mean, but the thing is, like, all of those things combined, like, yes, was there all of these different things that were happening that like kind of made my life hard? Absolutely. Like, could I not record as many episodes because I wasn't at home? That's because I wasn't at my parents' house, because I wasn't at my actual house that often. Yeah. And it sucked. And there was all this stuff going on. And there was just this whole on and off situation. And like, I didn't know what was happening. And as a result, the podcast got less attention. And like, I was really working hard at this job to try to like be better, and also commuting and also living on my brother's couch. And so all of these various things, like, it just became really hard to balance. And so the summer ended up being like this time of like, I'm really going to try to put more episodes out. But at the same time, it would go by, it would be like 3 weeks would go by. And I'm like, fuck, I have not put out an Instagram clip in 3 weeks. And so I'd try to hit it hard for a week. And then it would be like, oh no, you're busy again. Okay. And then you realize it's been like 2.5 weeks since you put something out on Instagram, and you're like, shit, like, I'm behind. I'm behind the grind, right? I was talking about how the beginning of this year, all I did was do content. I would wake up in the morning, I would do school as half-assedly as possible and as fast as possible so that I could get to doing content. And then I'd work on content for 4 hours a day before I went to go work. And then I'd go back, I'd come home after work, shower, eat dinner, and work on content again until I go to bed. And that was like, I was working on content practically 6 hours a day. So I had time to put out so much Instagram stuff. I had the time to put out all of these various pieces of content. And I feel like I was at my peak at that point, peak of the powers when it came to content. But the thing is, I fell in love with something else. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because all of these different things were happening. And also, I'd committed to San Jose State, and I didn't know what like my living situation was going to look like come August, and with where I was going to be and all that. So there was just a lot in the air, and frankly, I podcasted less than I probably should have, and I TikToked less than I probably should have, and it's continued. It's a pattern that has continued throughout the kind of the rest of this year, ever since I took the job up. But it's not because I'm like, a lot of influencers go on and make these YouTube videos about like, I'm so depressed. I was mentally burnt out. I hated YouTube. Like, that wasn't me. I didn't hate the content. It was just the fact that like I literally found something else that I really liked. And for the first time, I was like trying to balance all these different interests, and I also trying to like balance like living a life. And it just all caught up in terms of content, and I just got very behind in regards to all of that, you know. Um, but I, but at the same time, that's no excuse. I should have been better, and I'm trying to be better now. My New Year's resolution coming into next year, which I probably will not follow. Let's be real. No one follows their New Year's resolution. So why the fuck did I make it a New Year's resolution? Beyond me. But one of my resolutions is to be more active when it comes to podcast content, and just whether it be posting like little TikToks and then like posting them to Instagram, just being more active with the social presence than I was at the back half of this year, because frankly, like, I was not good enough. And I love podcasting. It's not like I hate doing content. If I could do content for 8 hours a day and work for the Giants, like, fuck yeah, that's the dream. But when you have school, uh, a life, and my brother's wedding, and all of these things that were going on, and like all these various events, and like living in two separate houses, like, it was a lot. So I cut myself a little bit of slack in that regard, but I think I'm going to be better planned coming into next year. So I think we will be okay. But San Jose State, right? I just made this decision to go to San Jose State, and a lot of people were not happy in my family. They thought I made the wrong decision. But then I got the job. I got the internship with the Giants, so like that whole conversation kind of shut up, because it was like, okay, like there's a legitimate reason in people's eyes for me to stay here, besides the fact that I was going to a completely inferior school. That was, yeah. So there was semi reasoning, but my parents also were like, I don't know, we'll see. So I was like, okay, I got to make this worth it. But San Jose State, uh, orientation was in the second quarter of the summer, and with with orientation, it was so funny. I had no expectations going into San Jose State's orientation. I was like, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna hate it. And I did. I really didn't like anything that that orientation had to offer. It was very, very boring. College orientation is always like that. Transfer orientation is even worse. It was not the vibe. And I basically go in, and the only reason you go to orientation is basically for that last hour of the day where like you can actually like register for classes, and there's like counselors and advisors and people like that who are like on duty to help you advise or to help you with your advising and all that good stuff. So I went to that last hour of the day, and I was like, I was like looking through San Jose State's class catalog at that point, and they were like all the class, like there was a lot of class options that were online, and so me being the online kid was like, let's go online classes. Here we go. So I go to this orientation session and I meet up with this comm counselor who I will not name because I still go to this school and I do not want her to, cancel me from the communications department at San Jose State. But I get into this communications department advising meeting and I start like looking for classes and I realize, much to my biggest nightmare of all time, hella online classes are gone. Because guess what, guys? Guess what? And this is something that I realized at a very harsh reality check that day in July or June or whatever it was. Guess what? San Jose State does not give a fuck about transfer students. Neither does any California university. They just leave you for dead. That's basically what it was. They were like, Anuj, we don't like you, but you know what we like? We like your money, money, money. So we like your money, but we don't care about you as a student. So go take these classes that have been left for the dogs. Good luck. So I ended up not finding much online options. So as a result, your boy was like, fuck, I'm going to have to take in-person classes. And so, of course, having to take in-person classes and sign up for a couple, my anxiety rose. My anxiety rose to levels of like, oh God, I'm going to actually have to show up to San Jose State in person. Like, my God, I hate in-person classes. This is the worst thing in my life. How am I going to cheat? No, I'm kidding. That last question did not show up. But I was like, oh my God, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. And I go up to the comm advisor and I'm like, excuse me, Miss Blank, or Professor, with all due respect, I am working a full-time job. I have a lot of things going on in my life right now. It's going to be really difficult for me to take in-person classes. Is there any way there's like ad codes or like any way possible that I could take online classes? And she looks at me dead in the eye and she says, honey, 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 typically, like, we don't even allow um our San Jose State Upper Division communication majors to take anything other than in-person classes. So the fact that you have the privilege to take online classes at this university is an honor. And then she goes on to basically say something along the lines of like, you're probably never going to get a fully online schedule again. Sorry. Sorry. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my God, what the hell have I gotten myself into? My research that I did with the course catalog was clearly wrong because I thought I walked into this whole advising thing like I thought I was just going to like click the box for a couple online classes. Thank you very much. Goodbye, San Jose State. I'm never going to see the internal of your campus again. I'm sitting there, I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to find this. I'm never going to find this. But you know me. You know me. I don't just give up on stuff like that. I could have listened to this dumbass comm advisor and gone to in-person classes in the fall. Let San Jose State take my money. But I was like, nah, bro. Nah. I'm not going down without a fight. So that's what I did. I found every single possible loophole that got me out of the class that I needed to take in person and found online alternatives. I found the teachers and the professors that nobody wanted and took spots in their classes. I found the one. I would go into my San Jose State every single day looking for classes, hunting for classes that were online, that were just accidentally dropped by students that, forgot about deadlines. I would wait. I would prowl. I emailed professors. I was on the freaking hustle. I was like a lion in the African savannah when it came to online classes. And guess what? Come day one of San Jose State semester one, fall semester, all online classes, bitch. Yes, Comm Advisor. You thought this motherfucking Comm Advisor was like, you're never going to get online classes. You're at an institution of higher education now. Ready? This is for the Comm Advisor. Suck it, because I got online classes and you were fucking wrong. Sorry. So I found a way, basically, this entire summer to gamify college. And for all my college kids that are listening that hate college, listen closely, my absolute Padawans. Gamifying college is important, okay? Because this institution, the sooner you realize this one fundamental truth to all my college kids, the sooner you're going to like actually succeed in college. College is a fucking business. They don't give two shits about what you're learning. They don't give two shits if you get no classes. So you have to be better than them. You have to be in their heads. You have to be in these professors' minds. You have to be 5 steps ahead of the registration process. Okay. You have to be ahead of all these other students, because a lot of students will just follow the regular registration deadlines and be content with their crappy in-person classes. But if you're like me and you're like, dude, I want online classes because I love my life's flexibility and all the different things that this gives me, listen close, Padawans. This is what you got to do. You got to constantly be looking online. You got to constantly be looking at your portal. You got to find your online options and look. A lot of the times, your first choice for classes isn't going to get picked. Boo freaking who. Because the reality is, your future employer does not care if you took COM 110 or COM 156. They do not care. As long as you have the piece of paper in your hand that says, congratulations, I graduated this university, that is all they give a shit about. They don't care about your GPA. They don't care how you got the degree. They don't care where you got the degree. And they don't care if you partied 5 times a week and still got a degree. All they care about is you get a degree. So here's the thing. Okay. Figure out whatever it is to pass your classes. That's my advice. Advice number 1, pass all your classes in college, get your degree. Number 2, find every single advantage that you possibly can get in regards to like finding online classes, in regards to finding an easier professor, in regards to finding anything that's going to make your life easier, because college in a sense is completely and utterly useless. So what you have to do is, the only day you should really be paying attention in college is registration day. Do not miss your registration deadline, because it will end up that come a couple weeks when you realize, shit, I forgot to register for classes, you'll end up in all the crappy sections. You'll end up with all the crappy teachers. You'll end up with all the crappy things. So do your research. Go to ratemyprofessors.com, search up all your professors. Make sure I like to go 3.9 and above. And make sure you have them written down on a little piece of paper on your computer, so that when you go to register, you're ready to just fire out all your classes. Bam, 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 bam. Click the registration button. Done. If your university offers you the opportunity to like queue your classes before your registration time, do that, because all you have to do is press enter and then you're done. Then all your classes are registered and you're good to go. But then if it shows waitlist, you got to have backups written too, because that's the other thing I've learned. You can't just go in with a starting lineup and expect to like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm chilling. I have my starting lineup. I'm good. No, you can't have your starting lineup in classes and have no backup options. You have to have a backup for every single one of your starters. It's like the NBA. It's like how sports works. You always got to have a backup because what happens if Trey Lance goes down with an injury week 2? You have to go to a backup. That's how it works. That's how college classes work. Have your backups ready to go. Have them written down. Have the professor written down. Pretend like you're going to start them. Okay. And then you have all of that good to go. You have your list so that in case, there's some complications with a couple classes, you can just fire out another couple classes. Boom, boom, wham, bam, done. Congratulations, have beat the system of college. Because 2 fundamental truths about college: they don't give a fuck about you. They only give a fuck about your money. So if you follow those 2 things and you keep those 2 things at the back of your mind, you're going to be a successful college graduate in no time. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. That's what I have to say about college. It's completely, it's out of date. The things you learn, not worth the money. And the way that students are being put to the ringer. Look at these UC protests that are going on, man. Look at the way that these UC protests are going on. Look at the way that these students are just look at the way that the American education system is generally just lacking beyond the rest of the world. Clearly, college isn't working. Higher education, unless you are in one of 5 career paths that are like incredibly specialized, don't go to college. It's useless. Secret. I have a secret. In our lifetimes, by the time that I have kids, if I ever have kids, probably won't. That's a story for another day. By the time you all have kids, because I'm presuming most of you are like my age or around my age, and they're of age when we went to college, 17, 18, there's going to be other options. College isn't going to be the only thing in the world you have to worry about at that point. There's probably going to be 17 other options that they can go through instead of college, because college is a dying industry and they're on their last breath. Just know that. That's my second college rant of the day. But anyway, I found a way to gamify college. And the thing is, in this process of thinking about gamifying college and having these internal dialogues in my head, as well as with people that completely disagree with me, is college worth the financial stress? That's the question that I kept coming back to. I mean, the 2 fundamental truths that I have: that colleges don't give an F about you, and the only thing that colleges give an F about is your money. Is it worth that financial stress? Is going to college worth that financial stress? Listen, I'm in a very, 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 very lucky position in which the fact that my beautiful, wonderful immigrant parents did really well for themselves in this country. And I get certain assistances when it comes to my tuition. I'm so fucking lucky. I cannot even attest to you how lucky I am. 90% of kids don't have what I have. 85% of kids don't have what I have. And I recognize that. Is it worth for that kid, or for those really extremely hardworking parents who are helping that kid go through school? Is the college degree worth it? Is it really worth it? Is it worth all of that financial stress? Or can that financial capital be put somewhere else that could potentially be more productive? There has to be a better way. That's my thing, is there has to be a bigger and better solution than just, sitting there and being like, okay, I'm going to have to fork over an X amount of money. And private colleges are even worse. Parents who are listening to this, never send your children to private colleges unless they have a full ride scholarship. Do not send your kids to Harvard, Stanford, Yale, MIT, Caltech, any good elite private school, Ivy League, or private in general, is the biggest complete ripoff of your entire existence. Such a ripoff. Unless that private school walks up to you and says, I will offer you a job. I will offer you physical 6-figure freaking employment after college. Do not go to an Ivy League school. Ivy League schools are stupid. They're not worth it. The Ivy League education that you get is probably equivalent to that of a person who education is relatively the same. Especially at the undergraduate level, undergraduate computer science classes at Berkeley are probably the same as undergraduate computer science classes at Davis, which are probably this very similar to undergraduate computer science classes at Stanford. They may just title them really fancily at Stanford. They may call them Seminars of Computer Science, Applications of Java in the World of Artificial Intelligence. Whereas at Berkeley, it's just called CS99. Like, that's literally the fucking difference. Don't send your private college is just a whole separate thing. And the fact that they charge you $60,000 to go to USC or Georgetown or even Redlands, which is where I used to go, and I had a fat scholarship at Redlands, it still wasn't worth it. It still wasn't worth it. The education is, and I can say this as someone who has gone to private, public, and community college, the education is the same fucking shit. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. You can look, if you want to go get your master's at Stanford or MIT or wherever, sure, it's probably different. It's more specialized. I get it. But your undergrad, it's the biggest fucking waste of money if you go to any private school. I'll say that right now. It's not worth the financial stress. Go public if you're going to college. If you don't go to college, major respect, but have a plan. Okay, so this whole internal dialogue of college and all of these things all of these things that are going on in my mind completely shift. Okay, because there's this huge event that ended up happening last weekend in my life and in my brother's life that I'll get to, and so wedding season basically began at this point. So, cue quarter number 3. Quarter 3 of 2022. So basically, the Giants internship's going strong. Everything's going great. The season is continuing. Everything is happening. It's all going. Everything is going, I guess, swimmingly, for lack of a better word. And so I'm doing all this stuff with the Giants, right? It's a lot of work. Commuting. I'm really trying to work my hardest so that I can stay around for a little longer in sports because I'm really loving every second of it. And the thing is, I had that first month revelation and it just continued to grow and grow and grow. And I just continued to develop this addiction of wanting to work in sports. Like, it was great. Like, this was everything I wanted. I got paid to watch games and to tweet and to like help create tweets and to like be on the field at Oracle Park, which is like a dream place to be and one of the most pretty ballparks in all of the world. Like, I'm like, this is everything I ever wanted. Like, please, please, please keep me around. So I'm going through all this. I'm trying to balance the podcast at the same time, but doing a terrible job with that, as I mentioned before. And college is starting, but I got all my classes online, so I'm fucking happy. But then September rolls around and it's my brother's wedding festivities kind of start to begin. So I guess for those of you that don't know, my brother got married. I will not reveal what my brother's name is, even though you could probably figure that out. I will not reveal who he married, even though you could actually, you probably can't figure that one out. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Can you figure that one out? I don't know. But anyway, my brother got married. And so as a result, there was a lot of stuff that was happening. And the first thing that ended up happening before the wedding was the bachelor party. So it was my first bachelor party ever. I ended up going and it was really fun. It was really fun. It was a lot of partying, which is, as for those of you that know me well, I'm not the biggest partier in the world. But I kept up. I'm 22. I can still keep up. I'm not that old, even though I feel 55 on most days. But yeah, I think September and that whole bachelor party, it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was great seeing everybody from all different parts of the country kind of come together for this thing and have a really good time for a weekend. It was awesome. And I had the bachelor party, and I'll talk about the wedding in a bit. But the bachelor party was really this first step on this journey I've kind of started to take, I guess, after September, which is taking steps back from the career, because I feel like I'm 22, right? I don't have shit built in my career. Like, I have, let's be real. Like, if we look at my career in a bigger picture, I'm a fucking intern. I still live with my parents, and like I have a podcast which has made me zero money in my life. That's me. That is Anuj. Like, I am I'm nothing. I am just me. And I haven't achieved shit in my career yet. But I'm having these visions of like there's more to life than just working. And I know I haven't done anything yet, and there's been nothing to do that, but like I feel like it's always weird because my brother's 6.5 years older than I am. And so I've always felt like he's at a different stage of life than I'm at. And as a result, I've always felt that he's gone through stuff 6.5 years prior that's similar, probably not the same because we were very different. But stuff that I could apply. And I looked around that bachelor party, I remember, and just thinking, and I was like, I feel great here. Like, this is so much fun. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it was really the first time in like 3 years I had taken a quote unquote vacation. I hadn't even left the state, I think, in like a year and a half or 2 years. And like, people in my life are like always traveling, going out. Like, I hardly leave my house, I hardly leave the bay. So it was weird. And I realized in that weekend that I needed to take a step back from like working because I'd really just been working pretty hard and work on like actually being in the moment and like realize that like there are relationships in my life that are really important too. And it's not just about the work. Life isn't just about what you work. Sure, you should be 100% passionate about what you work in, and I get that. But it should also be a delicate balance of like, I want to have really good friendships and I want to have like really good relationships with some of my good friends in life. And I want to enjoy these moments, these personal milestones that other members of my family are having. E.g., my brother's wedding. My dad turned 60 this year, and that was an awesome event that we threw together. And I realized like I really want to just take some time and enjoy the hell out of those things because when it's all said and done, like those are the things you're going to remember, not the fucking promotion you got. Right. And so taking steps back from hard work and hustle culture was something that like I really just started to realize in those moments because I had never really done it. I talked about doing it, but I'd never done it. And so to actually do it for a weekend, it was for a weekend. It wasn't even for like a week. But to actually like take that physical step and like do it was kind of insane. It was the first time I'd ever done it, and it was pretty cool. And so as a result, that was kind of my initial, I guess, step into that direction. I went on the bachelor party and I really thought about it for the next few months. And I worked, like, don't get me wrong, I came back and I worked my ass off after the bachelor party for this internship and stuff that was going on. But as the season started to kind of, fade away and the off season started to come about, life started to get a lot more chill on the internship front. And so I had more time on my hands. And I podcasted a little bit during this time, and I would try to, post more Instagram clips, even though I was still really inconsistent. Uh, but I was still working, like I was still doing stuff with the internship. Like it wasn't like it just ended. Um, but I was doing that, and I was also just like, talking or I was also just like podcasting and doing that as well and trying to balance everything. And school was kind of in full effect at that point, so I had to kind of do some work for that. Um, and so I was doing all that, but then I realized like, I was back into hustle culture, and I was like, I want to like really focus on building my relationships with people and keeping those relationships with people. And so when opportunities presented themselves throughout these last 4 or 5 months, or this third quarter of the year, I really tried to take the time to spend time with people rather than podcasting. Before, I would put the podcast in front of everybody, especially last year. I would put the podcast in front of everyone. I was like, people would be like, yo, let's go do this. And I would straight up have like anxiety. I'd be like, no, like I need to do this. Like if I don't do this, I'm behind, like this, that, and the other. Like I need to be on a certain path in my career. Like I was very focused on getting to the point immediately. That was what I needed to do. There was no other option. There was no alternative. But then I realized like, why? What are you doing? Like it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like it's the people that you're surrounded by that make you feel a certain way, that make you happy, that you are going to remember when when you get to the later stages of your life. It's the memories of like doing all of these various cool things and having that revelation and starting to put it into practice a little bit in the third quarter of the year due to this kind of bachelor party, like springing it all upon me, um, was super interesting. And so that was kind of like the theme, I guess, of like the third quarter of the year. Look, that was quarter number 3. You can't do it without ending it. And so the last quarter of the year kind of went from the bachelor party into like the holidays and the wedding, which happened really recently. And so my as I mentioned, my brother got married, and the wedding the wedding is finally here. The wedding was finally there for the first time. Like it was crazy because I'd heard them talk about it for so long, and I was like, God, like I just couldn't imagine it. I could never visualize it actually happening. And so like actually seeing like the visual manifestation of it really taking place throughout that week and all the family coming into our house and like all of these things was pretty cool. It was very, very cool to like actually be within that moment and experience it. It was very cool, and there's a lot of highlights from that entire wedding week that like I could share, but I won't do that. Um, but that was kind of like the fourth quarter of my year. Was honestly like this last quarter of the year has really just been focused on this wedding, and so as a result, kind of internship stuff took a back seat. I sort of start like my thing with school and the wedding and like all of this stuff. I guess internship stuff didn't take a backseat. Like that kept going, and we've seen good stuff, I guess, on that front for the time being. But the wedding and kind of what's it called? The wedding and like school actually like came to the forefront because my goal with school was like I'm trying to finish school as fast as I possibly can so that when the family all gets here I know I'm not going to be able to do anything in regards to schoolwork, so I was like I'm going to get all my schoolwork done as fast as possible. So that's what I did. I ended up finishing school like gosh, now it's been like 3 weeks. I ended up finishing school like 3 weeks ago, like 2 weeks early before San Jose State's technically supposed to be done. I also got lucky because a lot of my classes were like papers for finals instead of like actual tests where I had to like show up and take them. So that was fine, and it's all online, so it was great. So I ended up finishing school pretty early. Ended up getting a 4.0 GPA this semester, and and my thing is my main takeaway, and I don't mean to be an asshole when I say this, and it'll sound extremely douchey. My main takeaway with me, Anuj Changavi, getting a 4.0 my fall semester, if truly, 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 from the bottom of my heart, if anyone really applies themselves and like really gamifies college enough, and you like actually go with the major that you're good at, not just like like if you're in a major you hate, like you're not going to do well. But if you're in a major you actually like and you have a 4.0 GPA, or sorry, if you're in a major that you actually, I'm skipping a couple steps. If you're in a major you actually like, or kind of like you're good at, you can do those things well, and you gamify college and you like figure out all the classes and all the best possible things, and you put backups on backups on backups, and you're ready to go when it comes to your registration and all of that, everybody should be getting a 4.0 in college if you're actually doing something that you are really good at and you don't just take hard classes and all that shit. And like hard classes are usually hard because you're just not applying yourself. And this is like, again, keep in mind, grain of salt. I'm a humanities major. It's also very, very different for us. For STEM majors, I get it. It's really hard. So like you STEM majors are going to come at me and be like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. I'm actually like really good at STEM, but it's really hard. I get it. I get it. Okay. So don't hate me. Don't hate me. But I got a 4.0 GPA and it really meant nothing to me. Like I looked at it, I remember in high school, like when I would get like a certain GPA, like I would go through the roof, or I would like, it would destroy my mood for a week. And I've reached the point that like I got that and I was like, cool, dope, okay. It meant nothing to me. It meant nothing. And because like honestly, you know what would mean more? If my this fuck it. If my boss comes to me tomorrow and is like, "Hey, we want to offer you a full-time position." yeah, that would mean way freaking more to me than like, hey, you got a 4.0 at San Jose State. Because guess what? No one cares if I got a 4.0 at San Jose State. No one cares if I got a 3.0. All they care about is that piece of paper at the end of the day. So, yeah, I didn't mean much. But with the wedding, right? People don't realize a couple things. When you're the groom's brother at a wedding, the first is that there's a lot of work that's to be done at these things. When you're the groom's brother, you don't get to just sit back and enjoy it like the rest of the guests, dude. I'm envious. I'm envious of all the rest of the guests. The rest of the guests must have had a ball at this wedding. For me, it was a lot of work. You know, I get bride and groom probably had a lot of work too, but for the groom's brothers, it wasn't easy. I mean, you were constantly doing stuff. We were running around, running errands, getting ready, blah blah blah. It was also an Indian wedding, so there was like a bunch of different events and all that. And I could do a whole podcast about explaining what an Indian wedding is like and all of that, but that's for another day. Um, but it was like it was this whole thing, um, and the wedding finally like it happened, and all the events happened, and they all went super super well. But but the main thing, I had a couple things um, that I was thinking about. Number one was that like the amount of aunties that came up to me and were like, Anuj, you're next. When is your wedding, Anuj? Anuj, are you getting married soon? Right? The amount of those types of vibes that I got, fucking crazy amounts. Number two, I'm not getting married. I don't think I'm getting married soon. I don't think I'm going to be in a relationship anytime soon. Let's be real. But I don't know. Like being at a wedding, like brought up the idea of my love life a little bit. Like it just kind of like it was something I really genuinely was not thinking about for a while. But having to answer questions about it for the last, last week was it made me bring up it made me think about some things. Um, and like, do I want to give the apps a shot? Do I want to try at, you know, giving myself a love life, or like do I want to like be more forward or like ask somebody out? Are these things I want to do? I don't know. I don't know. Like I got to try, I guess. Like I don't know where to start, but I'm interested. I'll tell you that much. Like being at a wedding, like definitely got those thoughts sort of flowing in my head, especially getting those questions asked every hour. By the way, I'm not getting married. Like I'm not doing like a whole ceremony thing. This was like way too much. I may get married one day, but like I'm not gonna do this whole ceremony shit. This was a lot. I mean, Jesus, you have to like really like someone. So shout out to my brother and his wife because they love each other. So that's great. But yeah, all of that like led to like me questioning my love life and all of that. So been figuring out things in that regard. But look, the last quarter of a year always like I guess triggers thoughts about where is life going to be in the next where is life going to be in 2023? Because the reality is, I mean, I'm graduating this time next year. I'll probably be sitting here doing 2023 wrapped, talking about how I graduated school, unless some crazy shit happens. I don't know what'll happen. It could. You never know. Life is crazy that way. But I'm graduating school in a year. The full time job thing is starting to become more of a reality than I think. I'm gonna have to continue. Of course, I'm gonna continue podcasting. So hopefully, it continues to just be more consistent, and I can, continue to build an audience, and people continue to start liking what we're doing here. Even though I doubt people will like this 2022 wrapped episode, don't expect it to do super well. But where's my like? I guess questions I have is like, where's my career going? Like, are we going through this sports thing? Like, is this sports thing going to work out? Is it going to like? Am I going to be in the Bay? Like, I have no idea if I'll be in the Bay next year or come 2024. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea where I'm going to be. I have no idea if I'll have to move across country. I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to be in pizza next year? I could very well be working at the pizza place again. I don't know. I have no idea. And so there's just a lot of insecurity in terms of like where I'm at. And it's kind of like funny because I guess I was at that stage early last year, but it was very different. It was at a stage where it was like I hadn't necessarily experienced it. But now it's like I feel like I have experienced a little bit of like what working life is like and like legit working life and like potential career path and all of these things. So it's been weird. It's been weird. I feel like I'm at like a similar stage in regards to my insecurity about like career and all that. But um, at the same time, like I'm so happy that I've got the year that I had in regards to my career. And I guess like goals headed into next year. I think this is like the main thing people are talking about. I see it all over social media. I see all these influencers being like, my goal is to have 30,000 followers and be the best version of myself and to just self improve to the point where I am self improvement, right? Like a lot of people do this. A lot of people have these resolutions. And quite frankly, I'm not a big resolution guy. I know I gave one earlier, which was like to be more consistent with the podcast. And I think that's just a general goal. It's not a resolution. I'm not going to call it a resolution. I'm retracting that statement. We're not calling it a resolution because resolutions usually are broken. So I don't like to break stuff. So I don't really have any New Year's goals, to be honest. I think it's just to build off. I felt like this year was really good. I felt like I learned a lot this year. I felt like there was a lot of progress in regards to we went from Friday morning shifts all the way to aunties asking when I'm going to get married. So it was quite the year. There's a lot of stuff that happened. And I think I just want to build off the stuff I learned this year. I learned so much. I experienced amazing, amazing things this year. I got to be a part of an organization that I had been fangirling over since I was a kid. So to do that was amazing. And to be a part of them and to work for them, to get paychecks from them and all that stuff was just over the moon. Um, and like all those experiences I was able to have, the fact that like I was able to see like family and friends that I hadn't seen in years at my brother's wedding and like, hang out and party with them was beyond amazing. Like it's been a year of like all of these incredible experiences that I've gotten to have. And I think next year is just going to be building off of that. It's been a really good year. I can't even lie. The more I think about it, the more I can really say it's been one of the better years I've had. It was way better than last year. Last year was just kind of like last year was great, but it was just weird. Like last year felt more of like that stuck in the middle feeling that I kind of talked about earlier, like the very behind everyone else to like an extreme. I felt like this year I'm like, oh, there's some progress being made. There's steps being taken in that right direction. Of course, there's a shit ton of uncertainty. Don't get me wrong, but like there's stepping stones being laid. And so I can't sit here and say it was a bad year when I got to grow and experience things that I probably didn't think I would get to, I guess, last year. So I'm really, really happy. I'm extremely grateful for everybody that listened to this entire thing. This is like an hour and 18 minutes. So fucking huge respect to people that listen to this. Wow. Wow. You listen to me talk about this for an hour and 18 minutes. Shout out to you. Or if you're watching on TikTok and you see the clips, shout out to you too. But that's it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed my 2022 Wrapped. I was super inconsistent in the back half of the year, so I apologize, but I promise there will be more content coming, more political content, more just current events content, just more of those like typical Changavi show episodes. Of course, more after show stuff. I will be back as soon as possible with new stuff. I'm creating new stuff. I'm excited to be back. Um, and yeah, I look forward to seeing y'all in the new year. And I'm pumped. I'm glad you guys stuck around for this one, and like and subscribe to the show if you guys liked it. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. If you're on Spotify, go ahead and hit the follow button. If you see my stuff on Instagram or TikTok or Any of my other social media platforms, you can follow me at the Changavi Show. That's my handle everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I need to be more active on Twitter, but on Instagram, I'm pretty active. I'm actually very active on Instagram. You should be able to reach me there if you need. And yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Follow me on TikTok at the Changavi Show. Post clips there very often and post different takes that I have and things of that nature. So feel free to follow me there as well. But yes, that is all I have. That's everything I got. I'm signing off from the parents' house in the Bay Area on Christmas night. Technically, the day after Christmas is night because it's kind of late. And that's all I have. So I appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you guys so much for being here. And cheers to a happy 2023. And hopefully your 2022 was as good as mine. I'm glad I got to share a little bit of my 2022 ups and downs. So I hope you all enjoyed. All right. Take care, y'all. Peace.